Jake had been on Valdros Prime for 2 weeks now. Every day he spent time with Princess Lyra. At first she was cold and distant. She expected him to leave quickly like everyone said he would, but Jake stayed. And slowly, she began to trust him. Today, Princess Lyra was showing him a part of the palace he had never seen before. They walked through narrow hallways that seemed too small for normal Valdrians. These passages were built long ago, Lyra explained, when my people were smaller. Now only I can fit through them comfortably. Jake followed her through a doorway that was barely tall enough for him. On the other side was a huge library. Books and data crystals filled shelves that reached up to the ceiling. Strange machines sat on tables covered in dust. "This is where I spend most of my time," Lyra said. Her patterns glowed brighter in the dim light. "When the court does not need me for ceremonies." "What do you study here?" Jake asked. Lyra walked to one of the machines and touched it gently. The device hummed to life, projecting holographic numbers and symbols into the air. "Mathematics, physics, old technologies that my people have forgotten." She paused. "Things that others think are useless." Jake watched the holographic display. The numbers moved and changed in patterns that reminded him of her skin markings. "These equations," he said. "They are the same as the patterns on your skin." Lyra nodded. "My markings are not just decoration. They show me how the universe works. When I think about complex problems, the patterns change to help me understand." She touched another control. The hologram shifted to show what looked like a star map. "I have been working on something for years," she said quietly, "but I have never told anyone about it." "What is it?" Jake asked. Lyra hesitated. "A new way to travel between stars. Faster than the jump gates the Galactic Council uses. Safer too." Jake stared at the hologram. "That would change everything." "Yes, but my people think I am just playing with old machines. They do not believe someone like me could discover anything important." Jake moved closer to the display. "Show me how it works." For the next hour, Lyra explained her theories. Jake did not understand all the mathematics, but he understood the basic idea. Current faster-than-light travel used dangerous jump gates that sometimes failed. Ships were lost in space when the gates malfunctioned. Lyra's method would create a stable bubble around a ship, allowing it to move through space-time itself. "The calculations are incredibly complex," Lyra said. "That is why no one has tried this before. You need to process thousands of variables at the same time. But your patterns help you do that," Jake realized. "Yes. My genetic difference lets me see the mathematics directly. What takes computers hours to calculate, I can understand in moments." Jake looked at her with new respect. "Princess, this could revolutionize space travel." Lyra's patterns dimmed. "It does not matter. I am just the ugly princess. No one listens to ugly princesses." "I am listening," Jake said firmly. Over the following days, Jake learned more about Lyra's situation. Her father, King Zephyros, had been the only one who believed in her abilities. He had given her access to the old archives and encouraged her studies. But when he died, the court advisors dismissed her work as the hobby of an unmarriageable princess. "They think I am broken," Lyra told Jake one evening. They were sitting in her private garden, watching the 3 moons rise over the palace. "My small size, my strange markings, my interest in old technologies, to them, I am a failure." "You are not a failure," Jake said. "You are extraordinary." Lyra's patterns shifted to show surprise. "How can you say that? You have seen what I look like." "I have seen what you can do," Jake replied. "Your people only see your differences. They do not see your abilities." "And humans are different?" Jake thought about his own species. "Humans have always been different from each other. We learned long ago that differences can be strengths. What makes you unusual might be exactly what the galaxy needs." That night, Lyra showed Jake something even more amazing. Hidden deep in the royal archives was a chamber filled with ancient artifacts. The objects were covered in symbols that looked like Lyra's skin patterns. "These belong to the precursors," Lyra whispered. the race that lived in this galaxy before any of our species evolved. Jake examined the artifacts carefully. They seemed to be made of materials he did not recognize. When Lyra touched them, they glowed with soft light. "Only, I can activate them," she said. "The patterns on my skin match the symbols on the artifacts. I think my genetic trait comes from the precursors somehow." "What do they do?" Jake asked. "I am still learning, but I think they are connected to my faster-than-light travel theories. The precursors had technology far beyond anything we know today." Jake began to understand why King Zephyros had chosen him for Lyra. The old king had met Jake during trade negotiations. He had asked many questions about human attitudes toward people who were different. Jake had explained how humans valued diversity and individual abilities over appearance. "Your father was very wise," Jake told Lyra. "What do you mean?" "He knew that other species would not see your value, but he thought humans might be different." "He was right." Lyra's patterns brightened. "You really believe I am valuable?" "I believe you might be the most important person in the galaxy," Jake said honestly. For the first time since Jake had arrived, Lyra smiled without sadness. "There is more I want to show you," she said, "but it must wait until tomorrow. What I will show you next could change everything." That night Jake could not sleep. He was beginning to understand that this inheritance was not a joke or an insult. King Zephyros had given him something precious beyond measure. The question was whether Jake would be worthy of the gift. Outside his window, the 3 moons of Valdros Prime cast strange shadows across the palace grounds. Somewhere in the ancient archives, artifacts from a lost civilization waited to reveal their secrets. And in her chambers, a princess with living mathematics on her skin dreamed of traveling between the stars. The UES Defiance dropped out of hyperspace near the Valdrian homeworld. Jake stood on the bridge watching the planet grow larger on the main screen. Valdros Prime was beautiful from space. Blue oceans covered most of the surface, with green and purple landmasses scattered between them. 3 moons orbited the planet, casting strange shadows on the water below. "Atmosphere is thick, sir," Lieutenant Amy Foster reported from her station. "Humidity is at 90%. Temperature is hot. We will need environmental suits." "Understood," Jake replied. He had expected this. Valdrians evolved in a much different environment than humans. Dr. Sam Rodriguez looked up from his medical scanner. "The air has too much moisture for human lungs. The suits will filter it, but we should not stay planetside too long." "How long is too long?" Jake asked. 6 hours maximum without a break, Sam said. "After that, the suits might fail." Jake nodded. He hoped this first meeting would not take 6 hours. The communication system beeped. A voice came through speaking in Valdrian. The translator made it sound flat and emotionless. "Earth vessel, you are cleared to land at the Royal Spaceport. Follow the guidance beacons." "Acknowledged," Amy replied. She turned to Jake. "Sir, are you sure about this?" Jake looked at his crew. Amy had been with him for 5 years. She was smart and loyal, but she worried too much. Sam had joined them 2 years ago. He was curious about everything, especially alien biology. Chief Engineer Pete Collins was checking his tools at the back of the bridge. Pete always got nervous before meeting new aliens. "I am sure," Jake said. "This is important for human relations with the galaxy." "The whole thing sounds like a joke to me," Pete muttered. "Why would a king leave his daughter to a human he barely met?" "Maybe we will find out," Jake replied. The ship landed with a soft thud. Through the viewports, Jake could see the Royal Spaceport. It was built from white stone that seemed to glow in the planet's strange sunlight. Tall spires reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that looked too thin to support any weight. Jake put on his environmental suit. The helmet felt heavy on his shoulders. The suit's life support system hummed quietly as it started working. Amy and Sam put on their suits too. Pete stayed behind to watch the ship. "Remember," Jake told his crew, "we are guests here. Be respectful." They walked down the ship's ramp onto the spaceport landing pad. The gravity was lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel bouncy. In the distance, Jake could see the royal palace. It was enormous, made from the same glowing white stone as the spaceport. The building seemed to grow out of the ground, like a living thing. A group of Valdrians waited for them near the landing pad. Jake had seen pictures of Valdrians before, but seeing them in person was different. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their skin was pale blue with silver, markings that looked like writing. Their eyes were large and dark. They moved with slow, graceful steps. The lead Valdrian approached Jake. Through his suit's translator, the alien's voice sounded formal and distant. "Commander Harrison, I am Court Advisor Nexus. Princess Lyra awaits you in the palace." "Thank you," Jake replied. "We are honored to be here." Advisor Nexus looked at Jake for a long moment. "You may find this meeting difficult. The princess is not what your species would consider attractive." "I will judge for myself," Jake said. The advisor made a sound that the translator could not convert. He turned and started walking toward the palace. The walk took 20 minutes. Jake and his crew followed the Valdrians through gardens filled with strange plants. The trees had silver leaves that chimed like bells in the wind. Flowers grew in spirals around metal poles, their petals changing colors as they moved. Inside the palace, the walls were covered in carvings that told stories Jake could not understand. The ceilings were so high they disappeared into shadows. Water flowed down the walls in patterns that looked like art. They walked through many hallways before reaching a large door. Advisor Nexus stopped and turned to Jake. "Princess Lyra is beyond this door. I must warn you again. She does not look like other Valdrians. Do not let your reaction show disrespect." "I understand," Jake said. The doors opened. Princess Lyra stood in the center of a large room. Jake stopped walking. The princess was indeed shorter than other Valdrians. She stood about 7 feet tall instead of 12. But that was not what caught Jake's attention. Her skin was covered in dark markings that moved and shifted like living things. The patterns were complex and beautiful, like mathematical equations written in light. Her eyes were silver instead of dark like other Valdrians. They seemed to glow with their own light. When she moved, the patterns on her skin changed, creating new designs that hurt to look at directly. "Commander Harrison," she said. Her voice was quiet and careful. "I am Princess Lyra." Jake removed, his helmet ignoring the thick, humid air. "Your Highness, I am honored to meet you." Princess Lyra tilted her head slightly. "You may speak freely, Commander. I know why you are here. My father's will has made me your burden." "You are not a burden," Jake said. The patterns on her skin shifted faster as if responding to his words. "You have not seen me clearly yet," she replied. "Look at me. See what my own people see. I am marked with signs of genetic failure. I am too small to be useful, too different to be beautiful." Jake stepped closer. The patterns on her skin were not random. They looked like equations, like star charts, like music written in light. "Your markings," he said. "They are not random, are they?" Princess Lyra's silver eyes widened. "You can see that? They look like mathematics, like equations." For the first time, Princess Lyra smiled. It was a small smile, but it changed her entire face. "No one has ever noticed that before," she said softly. Behind Jake, he heard Amy whisper to Sam, "She is beautiful." Sam nodded. "The patterns are incredible. I have never seen anything like them." Princess Lyra heard them too. Her smile grew a little wider. "Perhaps," she said to Jake, "this meeting will not be as difficult as everyone expected." Jake smiled back. "Perhaps not, Your Highness. Perhaps not." The next morning, Princess Lyra led Jake deeper into the palace than he had ever been before. They walked down stone steps that seemed to go on forever. The air grew cooler, and the walls became covered with the same symbols that marked Lyra's skin. "These passages are older than the palace," Lyra explained. "They were built by the precursors thousands of years ago. My ancestors built the palace on top of their ruins." They reached a massive door made of black metal. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. Lyra placed her hand on the door, and her skin patterns began to pulse, with light. The symbols on the door responded, growing brighter until the entire door was covered in brilliant patterns. The door opened silently. Beyond was a chamber so large that Jake could not see the far walls. The ceiling disappeared into shadows high above them. In the center of the room stood dozens of machines, each one different from the others. They were made of materials that seemed to shift and change in the light. "The royal vault," Lyra said, quietly. "Only the king was supposed to know about this place, but my small size let me find passages that led here years ago." Jake walked among the machines in wonder. Some looked like computers, others like weapons, still others like devices he could not identify at all. "What do they do?" he asked. "I am still learning," Lyra replied. "But watch this." She approached one of the larger machines and placed both hands on its surface. Her skin patterns flared with brilliant light. The machine responded, rising from the floor and unfolding like a flower. Holographic displays appeared in the air around them, showing star maps and technical diagrams. "This machine contains the location of something the precursors called the Great Shipyard," Lyra said, "a place where they built their most advanced vessels." Jake studied the star map. "Where is it?" 300 light-years from here, in a system with no planets, just empty space. But according to these records, the shipyard is still there. Still working. Working? Jake stared at her. After all this time? The precursors built things to last forever. Their technology is far beyond anything the current galaxy has achieved. Jake felt excitement growing in his chest. Ships from the precursor era would be incredibly advanced. More than advanced, Lyra said. They would make current galactic fleets look like children's toys. She moved to another machine. This one projected images of sleek ships that seemed to be made of liquid metal. The vessels had no visible weapons, but something about them looked dangerous. "The problem is that only I can activate the shipyard," Lyra continued. "The precursor technology responds to my genetic patterns. But getting there safely requires human problem-solving skills that I do not have. We would need to work together," Jake realized. "Yes, but Jake, if we do this, everything will change. The balance of power in the galaxy will shift completely." Before Jake could respond, an alarm echoed through the chamber. Lyra's skin patterns flickered with what looked like fear. "Someone is in the palace," she said. "Someone who should not be here." They ran back through the passages toward the main palace. When they reached Lyra's chambers, they found Amy Foster waiting for them. Her face was grim. "Sir, we have a problem," Amy said. "A Galactic Council fleet just arrived in orbit. Chairman Vex is demanding to meet with you immediately." "How did they know to come here?" Jake asked. "Unknown. But they brought a lot of ships, 12 battle cruisers and a command vessel." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "They are trying to intimidate us." An hour later, Jake and Lyra stood in the palace, throne room facing Chairman Vex and 5 other council members. The aliens looked around the room with obvious greed in their eyes. "Commander Harrison," Chairman Vex said. His crystal body was brighter than usual. "We understand you have made an interesting discovery." "I do not know what you mean," Jake replied, calmly. "Do not play games with us," the avian delegate snapped. "We know about the precursor artifacts. We know about the princess's abilities." Lyra stepped forward. "How do you know about the artifacts?" "We have our sources," Chairman Vex said. "The point is that such dangerous technology cannot be left in the hands of primitive species." "Primitive?" Jake's voice was cold. "We are not. The ones who mocked a marriage arrangement without understanding its true purpose." "The true purpose," the Nebulan delegate said, "was to give us access to precursor technology. King Zephyros knew we would eventually discover the truth." "You are wrong," Lyra said firmly. "My father chose Jake because he knew humans would value what others dismiss. He knew Jake would see my abilities as gifts, not curses." Chairman Vex moved closer. "It does not matter now. You will turn over all precursor artifacts to the Galactic Council. They are too dangerous for your species to control." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked. "Then we will take them by force. Our fleet can destroy this palace and everyone in it." Jake looked at Lyra. Her skin patterns were pulsing rapidly, showing complex calculations. "There is another option," she said quietly. "What option?" Chairman Vex demanded. Lyra smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "The precursor machines are not just here in the palace," she said. "They are connected to systems across the galaxy, including the great shipyard." "What are you saying?" the avian delegate asked. "I am saying that while you were traveling here to threaten us, I was already activating the shipyard remotely." Lyra's patterns flared brighter. "The first new precursor ships should be coming online right about now." Chairman Vex's crystal body flickered with alarm. "That is impossible." "Check your sensors," Jake said calmly. The council members activated their personal communicators. Jake watched their expressions change from confidence to shock to fear. 12 ships just appeared on our sensors, one of them reported. "They match no known design, and they are moving toward our fleet." "Recall your ships," Jake said. "Leave this system immediately." "You cannot threaten the Galactic Council," Chairman Vex said, but his voice shook. "We are not threatening anyone," Lyra replied. "We are simply protecting ourselves. The ships are programmed for defense only, unless you attack us first." The council members looked at each other. They had come here expecting to take what they wanted by force. Now they faced technology they did not understand. "This is not over," Chairman Vex said finally. "No," Jake agreed. "It is just beginning." As the council members left the throne room, Jake turned to Lyra. "Did you really activate the shipyard remotely?" Lyra's smile was genuine this time. "Not yet. But I can. The question is whether we should." Jake looked out the palace windows toward the stars. Somewhere out there, an ancient shipyard waited to change the galaxy forever. "What do you think your father would want us to do?" he asked. "I think he would want us to be ready for whatever comes next," Lyra replied. Jake Harrison stood at the massive window of his quarters aboard the space station. The stars looked cold and distant tonight. He had been called to this meeting without any warning. The message from the Galactic Council was short and confusing. They wanted to see him right away about something called an inheritance. He walked down the long metal hallways of Proxima 7 Station. Other humans nodded at him as he passed. Jake was well known here. He had been fighting for human rights in the galaxy for 10 years now. Most aliens still saw humans as a young and weak species. Jake worked hard to change that view. The council chamber doors were huge. They opened with a loud hiss as Jake approached. Inside, representatives from 12 different alien species sat in a circle. Their seats were high above the floor, making Jake feel small as he walked to the center. Chairman Vex sat directly in front of him. The Zerathi looked like a giant crystal that could somehow think and talk. Light moved through his body in strange patterns. Next to him sat the avian delegate, whose feathers were bright blue and gold. Her beak was sharp enough to cut metal. On the other side, a Nebulan floated in a containment suit filled with gas. Jake could barely see the creature inside the swirling mist. "Commander Harrison," Chairman Vex spoke. His voice sounded like glass breaking. "We have called you here for a most unusual matter." Jake stood straight and kept his face calm. "I am ready to listen." Several of the aliens made sounds that Jake recognized as laughter. The avian delegate clicked her beak rapidly. The Nebulan's gas swirled faster in his suit. Even Chairman Vex's crystal body flickered with what looked like amusement. "King Zephyros of the Valdrian Empire has died," Vex continued. "He was 300 years old, a good age even for his people." Jake nodded. He had heard about the king's death on the news feeds. The Valdrians were one of the older species in the galaxy. Their empire covered 20 star systems. "The king left a will," Vex said. The crystal being paused and more laughter filled the room. "You are mentioned in this will, Commander." "Me?" Jake was surprised. "I only met King Zephyros once. That was 5 years ago during the trade talks." "Yes, we know," the avian delegate spoke up. Her voice was high and sharp. "That is what makes this so amusing." Chairman Vex held up a datapad. "According to the will, King Zephyros leaves you his eldest daughter, Princess Lyra, as a marriage partner." The room erupted in laughter. The sound echoed off the metal walls. Jake felt his face get hot, but he kept standing straight. "I do not understand," Jake said when the noise died down. "Why would he do that?" "Oh, Commander," the Nebulan spoke through his suit's speaker. His voice was like wind through leaves. "You clearly do not know about Princess Lyra." "Tell me," Jake said simply. Chairman Vex's crystal body brightened. "Princess Lyra is considered the ugliest member of the Valdrian royal family. Perhaps the ugliest Valdrian alive." More laughter filled the room. Jake waited for it to stop. "She is short for her people," the avian continued. "Only 7 feet tall instead of 12. Her skin is covered in dark spots that Valdrians find disgusting. No male of her species would marry her." "The king probably thought it was funny," another delegate called out. "Giving the ugly princess to the humans." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry would not help anyone. "What happens if I refuse?" he asked. The laughter stopped suddenly. Chairman Vex leaned forward in his seat. "That would be a grave insult to Valdrian culture," Vex said. "The king's will is sacred to his people. If you refuse, it could damage relations between humans and Valdrians. It might even hurt human relations with other species." Jake understood the threat. Humans were still new to galactic politics. They needed friends, not enemies. However, the avian delegate added with a clicking sound that might have been amusement, "No one would blame you for finding reasons to end the marriage later. Valdrian law allows for annulment under certain conditions." "We are taking bets," the Nebulan announced. "Most of us think you will last less than 1 standard day before you find an excuse to leave. Some think you will not even meet her," another delegate added. Jake looked around the circle of alien faces. Some were trying not to laugh. Others were openly amused. They all expected him to be embarrassed and angry. "I accept," Jake said clearly. The room went quiet. "You accept?" Chairman Vex asked. "Yes. I will honor King Zephyros's will. I will meet Princess Lyra and treat her with respect." The delegates looked at each other. This was not what they expected. "You understand that she is considered very ugly by her own people?" the avian pressed. "Beauty means different things to different species," Jake replied. "I will judge for myself." "And you understand that this could tie you to the Valdrian court for years?" Chairman Vex added. "I understand my responsibilities." The crystal being's light flickered faster. "Very well. We will arrange transport to the Valdrian homeworld. You have 3 days to prepare." As Jake turned to leave, he heard the delegates start talking among themselves. Their voices were excited and amused. They were already planning their bets about how quickly he would fail. Jake walked back through the station hallways. His crew would be surprised by this news. Lieutenant Amy Foster would probably laugh. Dr. Sam Rodriguez would want to know all about Valdrian biology. Chief Engineer Pete Collins would make jokes for weeks. But Jake was thinking about something else. King Zephyros had been smart and careful during their meeting 5 years ago. The old king had asked many questions about human culture and values. He had seemed especially interested in how humans treated people who were different. Maybe this inheritance was not a joke after all. Maybe the king had a different reason for choosing Jake. There was only one way to find out. Jake reached his quarters and started packing. In 3 days, he would meet Princess Lyra. Whatever she looked like, he would treat her with the respect she deserved. The Galactic Council might think this was funny, but Jake had a feeling they were wrong about everything. 3 days after the Galactic Council left Valdros Prime, Jake and Lyra stood together in the precursor vault. This time, they were not alone. Amy Foster and Dr. Sam Rodriguez were with them, along with several trusted Valdrian engineers. "Are you certain about this?" Jake asked Lyra. She nodded, her skin patterns glowing steadily. "The council will be back. They will bring more ships and try to take the technology by force. We need to be ready." Lyra placed her hands on the main control device. Her patterns flared bright, and the entire chamber filled with light. Holographic displays showed star maps, ship designs, and data streams flowing at incredible speed. "The great shipyard is responding," she announced. It has been waiting for someone to activate it for thousands of years. On the displays, they could see the ancient facility coming to life. Massive construction arms began moving. Raw materials flowed through pipes the size of buildings. Energy coursed through systems that had been dormant since before any current galactic species had discovered fire. "How many ships can it build?" Amy asked. "As many as we need," Lyra replied. "The shipyard can make its own materials from space, dust and asteroids. It only needs time." "How much time?" Jake asked. "For a full fleet?" 6 standard days. Dr. Sam studied the ship designs on the holographic display. "These vessels are incredible. Their hulls can repair themselves. Their weapons use principles I do not understand. Their engines can travel faster than anything in the galaxy." "The precursors were masters of technology," Lyra said, "but they disappeared before they could use these ships. Now we have the chance to finish what they started." Jake made his decision. "Do it. Activate the shipyard." Over the next week, Jake and Lyra worked together to prepare for what they knew was coming. The precursor ships began arriving in small groups. Each vessel was different, designed for specific purposes. Some were fast scouts, others were heavy fighters. A few were so large they could carry entire fleets inside them. Jake found that his human tactical training combined perfectly with Lyra's ability to control the ships directly through her genetic interface. She could make the vessels respond instantly to his strategic plans. "It is like we are two parts of the same mind," Lyra told him one evening. They were standing on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. Above them, precursor ships moved silently through the night sky. "Your father knew this would happen," Jake said. "He planned for us to work together." "I think you are right. He saw something in our first meeting that neither of us understood then." "What was that?" "That humans and Valdrians think differently. Your people solve problems in ways mine never could. My people see patterns that yours miss. Together we are stronger than either species alone." The next morning, long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching the Valdro system. Chairman Vex had returned with ships from 12 different species. Battle cruisers, destroyers, fighters, and support vessels filled space like an angry swarm. "They brought everything they could," Amy reported from the Palace Communications Center. "Over 300 ships." "They think numbers will win," Jake said calmly. "They are about to learn they are wrong." When the Council fleet arrived, they found 50 precursor ships waiting for them. The ancient vessels looked small compared to the massive Council battlecruisers, but appearances could be deceiving. Chairman Vex sent a message to the palace. "Commander Harrison, you are outnumbered 6-1. Surrender now, and we will be merciful." Jake activated the communication system. "Chairman Vex, you are interfering with sovereign Valdrian space. Leave immediately or face the consequences." "You cannot threaten the combined fleets of the Galactic Council," Vex replied. "Your primitive ships are no match for our firepower." "These are not primitive ships," Jake said. "And we are not threatening you, we are defending ourselves." The first shots came from the Council fleet. Dozens of energy beams lanced out toward the precursor ships. Jake expected to see explosions and destruction. Instead, the energy beams simply disappeared when they hit the precursor hulls. The ancient ships absorbed the attacks like they were nothing more than gentle rain. "Impossible," Chairman Vex transmitted. "Our weapons are the most powerful in the galaxy." "We're the most powerful," Lyra corrected through the communication system. "Precursor. Technology is beyond your understanding." The precursor ships began to move. They flowed through space like liquid metal, faster than anything the Council forces had ever seen. In seconds, they were among the enemy fleet. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The precursor ships did not destroy the Council vessels. Instead, they disabled them. Engines shut down. Weapons systems failed. Life support continued working, but everything else stopped functioning. In less than an hour, the entire Council fleet was floating helplessly in space. "How?" Chairman Vex asked over the communication system. His voice was small and defeated. "Precursor. Ships can shut down any technology they encounter," Jake explained. "Your weapons, your engines, your computers. All of it becomes useless." "We surrender," another Council member transmitted. "We do not want your surrender. Lyra said. We want your understanding. Jake activated the main communication channel so all the disabled ships could hear him. Members of the Galactic Council, you came here to take something that did not belong to you. You threatened to destroy an entire world to get what you wanted. This is not the behavior of a civilized government. What do you want from us? Chairman Vex asked. We want things to change, Jake replied. The galaxy needs to learn that different species have different strengths. What one group sees as weakness, another might see as power. The princess's genetic differences make her the most valuable person in the galaxy, Lyra added. But you called her ugly and worthless. How many other valuable people have you dismissed? Amy activated another communication channel. We are transmitting the technical specifications for improved faster-than-light travel to all your ships. This is a gift from Princess Lyra to the galaxy. Why would you give us this technology? The avian delegate asked. Because sharing knowledge makes everyone stronger, Jake said. This is something humans have always believed. Over the following days, Jake and Lyra negotiated a new agreement with the Galactic Council. The ancient technology would be shared gradually, with humans and Valdrians working together to ensure it was used wisely. The Council would have to change how they treated species they considered different or inferior. A month later, Jake and Lyra were married in a ceremony that combined human and Valdrian traditions. Representatives from across the galaxy attended, including a much humbler Chairman Vex. Your father would be proud, Jake told Lyra during the ceremony. I think he is. Watching, she replied. Her skin pattern showed joy and contentment for the first time since Jake had met her. As they spoke their vows, precursor ships flew overhead in perfect formation. The vessels were no longer weapons of war, but symbols of hope for a galaxy learning to value its differences. The ugly duckling princess had become the key to galactic peace. The human commander had proven that strength came from understanding, not conquest. Together they had shown that the greatest discoveries came from seeing value where others saw only flaws. In the royal gardens of Valdros Prime, under the light of 3 moons and surrounded by technology from a lost civilization, the future of the galaxy was being written by 2 people who had learned to see beauty in what others had dismissed as broken.